Hey, friends. Welcome to Wednesday night, 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. There's a chance that it's not quite 7 o'clock Wednesday night for me right now. No. We're sorry. But we will go back to live at some point. Until then, we're just going to drop these Bible studies, these quick midweek touch points into your Facebook and YouTube streams. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So yes, Russ, so close to being live, but not live. Hey, we're going to jump in because we're talking about forgiveness. We've been in the Lord's Prayer if you've been tracking with us, and we've hit our Father, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done. Give us this day our daily bread. And then for the next 2 weeks, we're going to talk about forgiveness. And for those of you who are on our text thread, I don't know if there has been a better recent example of forgiveness than what Erica Kirk said to the world and to the man who took her husband and the father of her children. Can't even imagine. That type of forgiveness, I believe, only comes from experiencing the grace and forgiveness of Jesus. So that's what we want as a group of people, whether you're part of Brookridge or whether you're one of our network churches or whether you're family or friends. If you're looking to follow Jesus, Jesus asks us to forgive. And oftentimes it's radical forgiveness because it's not forgiving people. Sometimes it's a hard thing. And it's not a natural thing for us to forgive. It's a natural thing for us to hold on to things, not natural to forgive. So we're going to talk about forgiveness for, like I said, the next couple of weeks. Our motto here at Brookridge Community Church is we invite you to join us in experiencing the grace and forgiveness of Jesus, and as we follow him together. That's a big deal for us. So we believe in both grace and forgiveness. So tonight we're going to get really practical. Starting now and throughout the week, I would like you to think of the people you need to forgive and the people that you need to seek forgiveness from. Realistically, we all hurt and we all get hurt by others. Some of you are the ones often causing hurt in the lives of others, and some are the ones usually being hurt by other people. It's important to understand, though, wherever you land on that scale, that we need forgiveness and we need to be forgiven. None of us are too good to not cause pain in the lives of others. And none of us are so strong that we will not be hurt by others. So this is where we live. In the capital city of Croatia, they had a museum called the Museum of Broken Relationships. And it's just a collection of memorabilia that people kept to just sort of remind them of their bitterness, from the axe used to destroy all the furniture in their home, to a garden gnome that was hurled at the car of a cheating lover, on and on. It's people saying, man, I just hate you, and I want to preserve that hatred. And some of you have those kinds of wounds in your heart. Some of you have family or friendship situations where a person hurt you. And the truth is, whenever you think of them, your mind instantly goes back to that moment when your relationship imploded. And it's very easy for you to dial up those emotions again. It's easy for you to be angry. On the other hand, I would imagine that everyone would acknowledge that forgiveness is a good thing. It's healthy, it's mature to forgive somebody who's wronged you, and it's deeply beneficial to you. The Atlantic published an article about the mental and physical benefits of forgiveness, that people who forgive have a reduction in stress, depression, anxiety. There's a great medical benefit to forgiving people. And they quoted all manner of studies. People who forgive complain of less physical symptoms. They use less medications. They sleep better, have less fatigue and less medical complaints, lesser amounts of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, a better sense of well-being. Another study showed that those who hold on to resentment see a decrease in brain size, sex drive, and digestive ability. All bad things. I don't want that. So let me forgive just for the sake of my digestion, right? There's another study where people were asked to recall a memory and feel resentment over somebody who had wronged them, while another group was asked to remember when they forgave somebody. They then had both groups jump, and the forgiving group jumped 7 centimeters higher. When you feel burdened by guilt and shame and resentment, it even burdens you physically. So if you've been wondering why you can't dunk a basketball and you're like, I never forgave my dad, boom. Now you'll be able to get over the rim. You're welcome. Others of you are 5'8", and it's time to let that dream go. You aren't going to get there. But I think all of us know forgiveness is a good thing. Forgiveness is a healthy thing. Forgiveness is something we should do. But when it comes to our lives, it's like, I don't know, man, resentment just tastes delicious. It feels good to be mad. There's something empowering about holding on to a wrong that someone has done against you or somebody that you love. I get it. We feel that. We live in a culture of unforgiveness. It's a very natural human thing to be simmering in resentment. You see it in the Middle East, right? Two cultures that have been fighting for centuries. Why? Because there's so much resentment. So much anger has reduced any ability to conversate to just hatred and violence. We see it in our movies. John Wick has made millions, starting with the premise, you kill my dog, I'll kill all of you. And we love it. We'll pay to see vengeance played out. With our technology and our online presence today, when somebody wrongs you, you keep screenshots of something they texted or a video of what they said or a sent email. They're actually called receipts. So if you're ever going to come after that person, you show the receipts of why they're wrong. And then the big finale is cancel them. And what's crazy about it is it's not just I disagree with them or they hurt my feelings. It's saying, I want you to go away. I want you to disappear. You're not worthy to be looked upon or listened to or valued. And people will pile onto something like this and rail against somebody they don't even know. Why? Because we dehumanize, because we want to destroy them while not feeling inhumane. We do it politically. Those people are idiots or monsters. They're animals. We name call because it feels better to destroy. We see that ugliness in the world today, and it's invaded us, and it's not meant to be that way. It's not. Resentment is what we simmer in, and maybe you're living there, a spouse who has wronged you, and you're holding on to that bitterness, a parent who wasn't there for you. That anger makes you feel strong and justifies whatever behavior comes next. It makes you feel good to know you're morally superior. So we preserve that unforgiveness. But here's the tragedy. That runs the opposite direction of the gospel. Jesus says it really clearly. You cannot grip onto bitterness and grip onto the gospel at the same time because they're going in opposite directions. Our world knows resentment, but we know redemption. We know a different story. Jesus will say, you can't embrace the forgiveness of God and then be unforgiving toward others. You can't do that. It's like getting married, but still wanting to date other people. You can't do that. At some point, you must let one go, and you cannot grip the gospel of grace and also hold on to resentment. Not in Jesus' economy, you can't. You have to choose one. Jesus says it very clearly as he's praying in Matthew chapter 6. He says, God, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And then he explains it in verse 14. For if you'll forgive others their trespasses, your Father will forgive you. If you don't forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive you. This couldn't be more confrontational, nor could it be more black and white. There are some gray areas in the Bible. Forgiveness is not one of them. Jesus links forgiveness of others with God's forgiveness toward us. You need to forgive people, not just so you can sleep better with less stress. He says you have to. You have to. If you know God's forgiveness, you have to extend it. And if you can't extend it, you don't know him. We have to forgive those who have wronged us. But it's difficult because holding on to bitterness is delicious for us. It feels good, yet we're meant to live another way. So then Jesus unpacks this for us in a story. And I want us to apply the implications of our own lives in how we treat others who have wronged us. Matthew chapter 18. Read it this week. Peter comes up to Jesus and says, Master, if someone sins against me, how many times do I forgive them? And for context, Jesus had just been talking about what to do when a brother sins against you. When somebody hurts you, he said, if somebody wounds you, you go and seek reconciliation in that relationship. So in the middle of that, you almost get the sense that Peter is concerned that his forgiveness might be abused, that his kindness might be taken advantage of. So he says, okay, Jesus, you want me to forgive someone who's hurt me? But how many times am I supposed to do that? And then he offers Jesus a suggestion. He throws out a number, 7. The rabbis of that day said the most you are to forgive a person who wrongs you is 3 times. 3 strikes, you're out. So Peter throws out 7 because he's just trying to look awesome. He's like, okay, the rabbis say 3 times. Watch and learn, guys. How many times do we forgive? 7? I mean, that's more than double. That's pretty incredible. And he lobs that number out there. What do you think about that, Jesus? And Jesus says to him, no, not 7. 70 times 7 or 77. Not everybody agrees on what he meant by that, but the truth is It doesn't really matter. Jesus was saying, you don't count, bro. You don't count. It's not about that. And then to illustrate, why should I forgive someone who has hurt me? Why should I forgive someone who's hurt me multiple times? Why do I even owe them that? Jesus begins to move through the story that has three scenes. Scene number one, king's throne room. He says there was a king, and he decides, I'm going to settle my debts. People owe me money, and I'm settling them right now. So they bring in a guy who owed him 10,000 talents. And Jesus is telling the story to a crowd. And when he said 10,000 talents, that would have shocked them, because the number 10,000 was the largest amount that the Greek language had a word for. And a talent was the largest denomination of money that existed at that time. So Jesus takes the largest number for which they had a word and the largest denomination of money that they had, and he put those together to make an incredible amount of money, 10,000 talents. He exhausts the language to say just how much this guy owed. Just to give you a sense of context, Josephus, the historian, talked about the taxes that were collected during that day from Judea and Samaria and all the surrounding areas. And the total amount of taxes collected was 600 talents. So this guy owes the king more money than even was in circulation at that region in that time. It was somewhere like 100 million days' wages. So if Jesus was telling the story now, it'd be like, the guy got called in and he owed like $1 gigabillion. And you would go, wait, what? It would bother you. Like, that doesn't even make sense. The story has already derailed. What are you saying? And you'd instantly think, how did the guy pull that off? How do you rack up a debt that big? What did you buy? How irresponsible a human being are you to do that? And then it also begs the question, and what kind of incompetent king lets that happen? Either his hands are totally off the wheel, or he has a level of patience that I don't really understand. I don't know what's going on in his mind right now. I don't even understand how he got into this situation. So the king calls the guy up. Says, listen, I'm selling you and your family. It's like a prisoner making license plates to pay back their debt to society. Okay, you're just going to go and try to work this off, but good luck. We'll see you again, never. And he's dismissing him, because reality is the guy's not going to pay it back. And when he hears this, the guy hits his knees and begs him, please no. He says, I'll pay you everything I owe. Now it's just silly. You're not paying it back. You don't have the capacity to repay the debt. And the king won't recoup his money by selling him. A blue chip guy back then would go for one talent, one. So the king's taking a hit and he's just dismissing the guy. You racked up this debt and I'm casting you out of my kingdom. The man begs him, please don't. And the king doesn't just say, okay, give it your best shot. Jesus makes sure to point out the motivation here. He says the king has compassion toward him. It's the word splagnizoma, which means a deep emotional response in your guts. So it isn't because this guy had a good plan. No Dave Ramsey back then. He doesn't. It's purely based on the king's mercy, his love, his compassion, his pity. He looks at him and he says, all right, man, you're free to go. And not you're free to go work off the debt. He says, I'm canceling the debt too. You are 100% free. And if you're sitting and hearing that story, you can't even get your head around what kind of reservoir of compassion a king like that has to forgive and wipe away a debt like that. You are floored. So there's stunned silence here. What kind of king would do something like that? Crazy. But it also sounds like the kind of king you would want when you mess up. Scene number 2 takes place on the streets, where back then, if there was a rough time agriculturally, if people's crops were dying, they couldn't pay taxes. And the king sometimes would see that and out of relief would say, you don't have to pay taxes. And how it worked was, if the king gave you relief, it was understood that the king's being benevolent, and so are you. So if he forgives people their debt, you don't try to pull in what others owe you. We all live under this banner of grace in this moment of hardship. So in this scene, the guy's received an extraordinary level of forgiveness, and then he steps out into the street, finds a guy who owes him money, 100 denarii, which wasn't just a couple pennies. That worked out to be about 100 days' wages, say $12,000 between friends today. If the person next to you owed you $12K, you'd probably be thinking about that right now. You'd be like, amazing grace, you still owe me 12 grand. You'd be aware. You'd be like, you see him and be like, hey, what's up, 12K? It's not nothing, but compared to what just happened earlier, it kind of is. So his buddy owes him money. He's like, I want my money back. And he demands it back. And the other guy hits his knees, and Jesus makes sure that in this story, his buddy uses the exact same words he did earlier. Please have patience with me. I'll pay you back. Except this guy could actually pull it off. And it says the forgiven man choked him. You could do that back in the Roman society. If there was a criminal, you'd grab him by the throat and you'd take him to the authorities. But a great indignity that was to do to somebody. It was a shameful thing to choke somebody out in the marketplace. And this guy comes up, chokes his buddy, says, pay me what you owe, shames him, embarrasses him, and then imprisons him to pay it off. So now his friend loses, his family's gone, the king loses. This is one of his servants, and now he's been removed from society because of this other joker. The other slaves are horrified by this. You threw somebody in prison for more than 500 denarii back then. This wasn't even up to the standards of incarceration. This guy's level of indignation way outweighed the level of offense. But that's what happens when you're proud. So, of course, they go and tell the king. And scene 3, we're back in the courtroom. The king's offended and he's furious. Jesus says, when the king sees that his forgiveness and his grace were not treated as worthwhile, he tells this guy, if you can't understand and embrace grace, you don't get grace. He says, I cast you out. Some translations say to the jailers. More accurate would be to the torturers, because you refuse to show mercy. I cast you out of my kingdom and you die. Online today, the crowd would be posting, serve you right, #canceled. And Jesus flips things around and closes with a very serious statement to Peter and the crowd. He says, so also will my Father do to you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. So some of you might be thinking, I love Jesus, but that guy hurt me. Or that girl said this, I hate her. And you're holding bitterness in your heart. Let me tell you something. What Jesus is saying here is if you don't show grace, you don't know grace. The people who've received the grace of God show grace. Here's a quote for you. Jesus lets us know that before God, we are in far deeper debt than anyone needing forgiveness from us. In this story, we're not just as guilty as the one whom we need to forgive. We are worse. Let that sink in for a minute. Those who understand they are debtors before a holy king know what it is to forgive debts. But if you harbor bitterness and resentment, it's because you hold the grace of God as cheap. You don't understand what he's forgiven you for. Your inability to forgive shows that you don't even know what it is to be forgiven, because those who know grace show grace. Those who do not show grace don't know that. Was Jesus saying, earn your salvation? No, the debtor in the story was not forgiven because he earned it. That's not the story. The grace of the king always flies first. That's the gospel. While we were sinners, Christ died for us. That's how the gospel works. While we were the enemies of God, the grace of God came running after us. While we were blowing God off, Jesus Christ came to you. While they were spitting on him and mocking him, he gave his life to pay the debt. That's the gospel. And then when you receive that, your heart is renovated. It changes you. You become something else. When the immoral woman in the Gospels came and wiped Jesus' feet and was blessing him with everything she knew how, he told the crowd, this woman loves much because she's been forgiven much. She understands, she gets how broken she is. And when she understands that in the midst of her depravity, I forgive her, when you grab onto grace like that, it explodes into worship and service. He says, that's why she's serving me. It's because those who know grace show grace. Are you forgiving to those who have hurt you? Your king is forgiving. And if you're not, you are dishonoring the king. It's as stark and as difficult as that. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. If we don't forgive them, he does not forgive us. That's the way it works. Colossians 3:12 says it this way, holy and beloved, put on a heart of compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with one another, forgiving each other. Whoever has a complaint against anyone, just as the Lord forgave you, so also should you. Ephesians 4:31 says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, slander. Those are normal human emotions. You get rid of those and instead be kind and compassionate. Forgive each other just as God in Christ forgave you. When we understand how much God forgave us, when we understand Christ's forgiveness of us, that empowers us to forgive others. God's grace flies first, but ours must fly second. That's how it works. John Piper said God's forgiveness is underneath ours and creates ours and supports ours. We forgive because we've been forgiven. John Chrysostom said we are more like God in the act of forgiveness than in any other moment. To forgive is to be like God. And so as his kids, we look like our dad. He forgave, so we forgive. And if we don't forgive, it shows that we really don't know grace at all. Tim Keller says, on both a theological and a practical level, forgiveness is at the very heart of what it means to be a Christian. True forgiveness comes at a cost and is pursued intentionally within a community of believers. True forgiveness comes at a cost and is pursued intentionally within a community of believers. So the question is, if forgiveness is that important to God, how do we do it? How do we do it? I'll give you a few things next Wednesday. But until then, read Matthew chapter 18. Remember that we've seen one of the greatest examples of forgiveness that I've ever seen in my lifetime in a public stage. And remember that because God has showed us grace, because he's forgiven us of a debt that we never could have paid, we forgive others. Forgive us our debts as we forgive those who have debts against us. Hope you have a good rest of your week. We're back into David this Sunday, and I am excited to worship with you at 9:30 Sunday morning. Until then, we're praying for you. We appreciate this community that God has put together. Forgive as we have been forgiven.